Welcome back. As you know, I'm Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I'm excited to say a Tesla robo-taxi has been in an accident. I mean, nobody was killed and nobody was hurt. And there wasn't like significant damage or anything, but the tire of a Tesla robo-taxi rubbed up against a parked vehicle. And in the world of YouTube and social media, right, that makes an accident. I think this is actually an interesting story to talk about, though, because it goes into the whole questions of things like liability, especially outside the realm of complete and utter tragedy, right? So many times when we talk about artificial intelligence and we talk about robots and autonomous vehicles and all that kind of thing, it's the whole trolley problem, right? If you have one old lady walking down this road and you have 100 school kids walking down this road and the trolley can't stop, who do you kill? And what I think is interesting about the trolley problem is because it blows up the issue of things like robots and autonomous vehicles to such an extreme question that it's really easy to completely overlook the little tedious things that we have to deal with as real technology professionals. As I say, when I've done all of these meetings with so many people that want to get in the world of technology, they have these ideas of what it is to be a technology professional. And then they don't realize they're going to spend 90% of their time simply wiping and reloading crap, and that's how it's going to go. And so it's interesting to think about this, especially when Elon Musk talks about not that Tesla as a company will have this robo-taxi service, but the idea that each individual person will have a vehicle that they'll be able to use as a robo-taxi. What happens when those individual robo-taxis owned by individual people do little stupid amounts of damage? What happens when a car gets sideswiped? What happens when a mirror gets knocked off? What happens when that level of damage is done? Where does the liability for that reside? And how does that get dealt with? And I think this is one of those things that's just being completely and utterly overlooked because everybody's worried about the trolley problem and is the value of 100 kids' lives more than the value of an old person's life, right? But anyways, before we get into this particular show, I will say silicondojo.com. If you don't know, I do something called silicondojo.com. We do fireside chats. Next week is going to be exciting for fireside chats. We're going to have the Louis Rossmann on the Zoom call to talk about his new project with Fulu, not Futu. There was Futo, and now there's Fulu. Then there's Fruit Loops. I don't know. Anyways, we're going to be talking with Louis Rossmann about Fulu next week. And then also next week is going to be exciting. We're going to have David Cox. He's a big wig with IBM's AI division. And so I'm having them come on this Zoom call. Basically, people are able to come on the Zoom call too and ask questions so they can tell you their actual perspectives of the real world of technology, right? Everybody says Eli, the computer guy, is so arrogant, always crapping on our dreams. Well, I hear you. I listen to you. So I will bring in other people to crap on your dreams. Anyways, we're going to have real technology professionals in. You can go to silicondojo.com and you can sign up for that if you are interested. And so the story for today is a robo-taxi inexplicably drove into a parked car. And it is interesting. There is video footage of this. I will not show you the video footage because I don't want a copyright complaint on that. But there is video footage. Basically, this Tesla car let somebody out and then drove into a Toyota on the side of the road. And that was the thing. Like when it drove, it drove real. That's the thing. Is it drove and it was like an inch away. It was like an inch away or something. And so people are like, oh, it didn't hit. And then the guy who actually owned the other car, surprisingly, the guy that owned the car that did get hit was like, no, your tire is literally hitting my car. And so, these are the types of things to be pondering. Like how, if a police officer is called to that situation, how is it dealt with, right? For me, like as a driver, I have to have my insurance card with me at all times when I'm driving so that if anything happens, I have an insurance card. How are things like insurance cards dealt with robotaxis, especially if you've got 1 million robotaxis owned by 1 million different people, right? If it's just Uber, if it's just Waymo, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but you could say the idea is Waymo has one line to call for the police officers. The police officers can call that one line, and they can they can go through auto attendant hell in order to deal with the issue, right? Not saying that's necessarily a great solution, but you know, that's one of those you're like, well, it may not be a good solution, but I grasp where Waymo or whatever Uber would be coming from. What's interesting here though, is with the Tesla robotaxis, these are 1 million or millions of vehicles owned by millions of different people. What happens when your robot car does something stupid? Who can people scream at? Who, you know, where, how does all this work? Let's see here. One of Tesla's fully autonomous robotaxis grazed a parked car after completing a ride recently in Austin, Texas, right? So this is the robotaxi rollout. The robotaxi rollout that is gonna turn Tesla into a $20 trillion company. You know, they've got 10 cars on the road with safety drivers in a highly geo-fenced area. And they're already sideswiping other vehicles. Anyways, this is what's going to make them $1 trillion. In a video recorded by YouTuber Dirty Tesla, a self-driving Model Y is seen turning and accelerating into a Toyota, making light contact with its tire. As seen in the video, the Model Y already dropped off its passenger, but had trouble navigating out of the dark alleyways afterwards. And this might be an interesting thing with the whole idea of all you need is cameras. I think this is a funny thing. Like, it's funny when you listen to people and then you take their arguments at face value and you realize how fucking stupid their arguments are, right? So the idea here is that LiDAR is expensive. Now, Elon Musk, the person is, you know, taking people, you know, up into space in his rockets, has robo-taxis the whole 9 yards, thinks this one sensor is so expensive, they'll never be able to reduce the cost of it. Anyways, the idea is that LiDAR is stupid. And one of the things Elon Musk has said, he's literally stated, right? If eyes are good enough for human beings, cameras are good enough for cars. And one of the things that I've argued, just as a human being with lived experience driving in places other than, I don't know, Southern California, is eyes ain't so good. Eyes, like when somebody tells you all you need is, if you had a car and you had the ability to have all kinds of sensors in the car, and then you're told, no, all you need is eyes, right? If price didn't matter or anything else, would you really go for that? I mean, think about when you're driving down the road, especially out in the middle of our country, and one of those storms comes out of fucking nowhere, right? You're driving along, everything's beautiful, all of a sudden, fucking swimming pool just hits your windshield, right? Right? Do you feel like eyes are great right at that point in time? When you go from what you think is, you know, I don't know, 1 mile of visibility to 6 inches of visibility and you're going 70 miles an hour, are you feeling really comfortable about eyes being the best sensors at that point in time? I think about this driving up in the Northeast. All of a sudden you'll get those flurries, like not enough snow that it causes technically dangerous driving conditions, but so much snow that it becomes, you know, relatively hard to see, or fog, or, you know, anything that makes it hard to see with eyeballs, right? Dark, right? You got all these different lighting conditions or whatever else. That's one of the arguments a lot of us have where, I mean, eyes are eyes. Eyes are eyes. If all you got is eyes, right? I don't have a LiDAR, you know, stapled to my forehead, therefore I'll deal with eyes. But if I could have more sensors, I would take the more sensors. And so I think that's one of the interesting things with this is think about like with lighting conditions. If all you have are cameras, then you are going to be basically seeing things. The vehicle is going to be seeing things based off of those lighting conditions. So in darkened places or weird, wonky, how well is it going to be able to determine everything that it's seeing since it's not using LiDAR? It's not using ultrasonic distance sensors. It's not using LiDAR. It's not using these other things that are out there. And so it is curious here that in a dark alleyway, it accelerates into a Toyota. According to a dirty Tesla, there were no serious injuries or damages, and the robotaxi monitor eventually swapped to the driver's seat and drove off. Although the sideswipe was minor, it's unclear what caused the Tesla to drive into the parked car instead of driving off normally after completing the ride. And so they were not able to deal with it using the teleoperator. So apparently they have teleoperators, you know, controlling these cars. AI, only the finest of AI. Only the finest of actual Indians sitting in California. Anyways, so there are actual Indians sitting in California are supposed to be able to teleoperate these things. And for whatever reason, they weren't able to teleoperate out of this particular situation, and so the safety driver had to get in. Now think about this, if there wasn't a safety driver. If you're in a parking lot area, whatever, the Tesla doesn't know what to do, the safety operator doesn't know what to do. Literally, what happens then? What happens when you have Tesla park in 50 people into a parking garage or something like that? This is the kind of stuff that we need to be thinking about a lot more with these Teslas, especially as he keeps trying to dump them on the road. Basically, this is a picture. This is a still shot of the image, just to kind of show you how close they were. So again, at Dirty Tesla, you can watch his video. This is the Tesla here. This is the Toyota here. And if you go through, you can see where the tire is actually touching the car. And the other interesting thing with this, again, with the robotaxi, and not only with the robotaxi, but the fact there's a safety driver in there, right? There was an agent for the corporation in this robotic vehicle. And initially, they were denying that the Toyota was even touched, right? So the tire touches, it makes a mark. Now, in the modern world, one of those stupid marks, right? Trying to repair the paint job on a car nowadays might be $1,000. Seriously. So if you have this Tesla, even does minor damage to somebody else's vehicle, that might be $1,000 in damages in order to get that fixed with everything that has to go into it. And it seems initially that the safety driver, the agent for the corporation that is running this robotic taxi, doesn't seem to want to take responsibility that the robotaxi hit a parked vehicle. Right? The person who actually owned the parked vehicle happened to be in the area, saw what happened, came, had to tell them, had to show them that his car was hit by the Tesla, which becomes another interesting question. Because Elon Musk doesn't want to worry about this, right? If Elon Musk does $1,000 worth of damage to your car, he is angry that you're complaining about $1,000. Don't you understand? He's the wealthiest man in the world. Why the hell does he care about $1,000 of damage to your car? And then think about this at scale. Think about this at scale. These are 10 cars that are running around in a highly geo-fenced area with a safety driver, with an actual Indian controlling the damn thing, and you run into this particular situation. If you listen to Dirty Tesla more, he talks about he's been on about 50 rides, and out of the 50 rides, I think he's had 2 or 3 significant problems already, which does become an interesting question with these robotaxis. As he talks about, you know, that becomes 4 to 6% issue rate on these vehicles, and supposedly, right, this is the greatest robo-taxi solution that will ever be created, and that gets to be pretty concerning. Like what happens when these Teslas are running 100 trips a day, 1,000 trips a day, things like that. If you have a 4 to 6% rate of doing damage or something else to other people, that can become a major issue pretty quickly. So anyways, there you go. It's not the most exciting thing in the world, but it does bring up a lot of questions in this kind of autonomous vehicle environment that we're in, and especially when you have a CEO that doesn't seem to be paying attention to his company, that has so many fanboys that are ready to defend his company regardless of what it does. What happens when your CEO is a brain-addled drug addict that doesn't get enough sleep at night, who's more focused on everything else in the world other than the corporation, and they're releasing these robo-taxis onto the public streets, and don't seem to have effective plans for when things go wrong, because in their mind, why would it go wrong? They're perfect, right? Why would the techno king ever be wrong? So anyways, some things to think about. Some things to think about, some things to ponder. Go see the Dirty Tesla YouTube channel. I rode Tesla's Robotaxi 50 times. Here's what went wrong and right. And the fact that there were things that went wrong is something to really consider. So what do you think about this? What do you think about robo-taxis being on public roads? And what do you think about the oversight of those robo-taxis? Not for the trolley problem, not for major accidents and that type of thing, but what about basic, simple side-swiping issues? What do you think about this, where it does seem to be that the agent of the company seem to be a bit iffy about taking responsibility for what the vehicle actually did. What do you think about the issue here, where not only did the robotaxi not be able to understand what to do next, but the actual Indian also didn't understand what to do next, and so therefore the safety driver had to get in the vehicle. What happens to that vehicle? What happens to everybody around that vehicle when it just stops and it doesn't have a safety driver in there? How long before somebody comes and deals with the problem? What about when you have 1 million vehicles on the road owned by 1 million different people? How are things like insurance cards and all that kind of stuff dealt with? How is that nitty-gritty crap dealt with? Those are the things to ponder. Remember, silicondojo.com. We have 2 cool fireside chats coming up next week. Make sure for this video, give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down, leave us a great comment, leave us a horrible comment. It's the modern world of social media, so all that matters is that interaction. And with that, I'll see y'all later.